two, rock on. Check it out, y'all. 1, 2. Yo, lady, rock on. Check it out, y'all. 1, 2. Yo, lady, rock on. Check it out, y'all. 1, 2. Yo, lady, yo, lady, yo, lady, yo, lady, rock on, rock on, rock on, rock on, rock on. 1, 2. Yo, lady, rock on.
What's up? We back again. DJ Kayslay, the drama king, is in the building. I'm with another legendary hip hop icon. What's the Science podcast / Showcast, Grand Mixer DST.
What's good, brother?
What's going on, man?
It is what it is.
Now, that's an honor to have you here, bro.
Thank you.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, me being born in Harlem, raised in the Bronx, back to Harlem, back and forth. So I really had the best of both worlds of the cultures.
Yes, sir.
I never forget hearing, I believe it was Love Rap, if I'm not mistaken, or the beat that was in the back, and you playing that synthesizer over it, and I'm like, yo, who the fuck is that? Because it was original, it was like, that's DST. I'm like, man, yeah, but who the fuck is that? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so to have you here right now, you understand, I never got to cross paths with you. Back then, I definitely want to let you know you was one of the people that I looked up to, because I loved originality.
Thank you, brother. We crossed paths indirectly. Mm-hmm. I did the Bing album for 9.
Okay.
And you was the host.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah, that's
I recorded that whole album.
Wow. Okay. So we did interact.
Right.
In some shape, form, or fashion. So, me to you, first thing first. What was your first introduction to the hip hop culture?
Let me try to draw a lineage of how we came to that. Growing up in the Bronx, you know, as a young alpha male, there were certain things that we would be impressed with. And one of the first things that hit our community was the sensation of the Jackson 5. And so that permeated through the neighborhoods, and everybody started these little groups, and everybody wanted to be Michael and Jermaine. And on the sports side, it was Muhammad Ali. And then the karate era started. And then everybody wanted to be Bruce Lee.
Jim Kelly.
Bruce Lee. And then, what, Jim Kelly?
The black chicks like Jim Kelly.
Jim Kelly.
But Bruce Lee, because he was fucking everybody.
Yeah.
He would have fucked Jim up too.
So we had certain icons that would, you know, come into the community and have an impression on the majority of the young people that we would gravitate towards. And back in the days, they would have Showmobile, and it would be a van, a truck that would come by when the stage would pop out, and all the local bands would come and play. And then all of a sudden, the band started to disperse, and sometimes it'd be a guy just playing records. For me, growing up in the 60s, I'm the youngest of 4. And so my mom and my sisters, they would have house parties all the time. And they would play all of these soul records. You know, that was the thing. And so I was always into music. I'm actually a drummer, actually.
Okay.
And I'm from a musical family. So as the local bands began to become less and less for the entertainment, became more and more, you'd see people DJing. And my first introduction to a guy playing records outside was these guys in Edenwald Projects called TNT Disco. And now, you know, I'm listening to music, I'm playing drums, and I see these guys DJing. And this is the early 70s. 1973, I graduate from PS 111. And during the early 70s, before I graduated, we used to have these parties in school where we used to the guys would dance against the girls and burn each other. And it used to be the hand, putting the hand in the face and all of that. And so,
yeah, there you go.
And so little by little became more and more aggressive. And so the girls was now out of the picture and it was just dudes going against each other. And so all of these things was stewing until it was actually 73. We went to 72, we went to the Melba Theater to see this film called The Thing with Two Heads with Rosie Greer and Ray Milland.
Rosie Greer.
And in that movie, this record came on. And it was, and we didn't know what it was, but it was okay. That was kind of bad because back then we was listening to Earth, Wind and Fire, Moment of Truth, and all these get down parts like James Brown, get down, and that's where you would go in, or Crazy Legs, or you know, these records that were playing back then. There was a record called Evolution, The Exorcist, and these records, right? And so we had this thing where there was this whole get down thing, and it was about burning people. And in Edenwald Projects, that became like a real serious thing. Like we'd have battles in Edenwald. And so this Tony O'Gara and Fat Tommy, they were the DJs at the time. And then around 74, we started hearing about going to different places to see other DJs play. And one of the names that stuck out to me was Kool Herc. I never heard of him. I'm a drummer, but I'm into dancing and stuff. And actually, let me go back a little bit. 73, Bongo Rock comes out again as a 45. And so everybody had it in all the neighborhoods. Everybody's playing Bongo Rock and the get down part, and everybody's jumping around or jitterbugging around on the floor and stuff. And then at that time is when we heard about a guy named Kool Herc. Now I'm still too young to be traveling across town to see it, so I'm hearing about this stuff. So around 70, 75, it was right before the bicentennial year. Me, a couple of my friends who were dancers, B-boys, we was like, okay, Charlie Rock, Charlie Horn. Okay. We were all Baby Spades and Entercrime and all that stuff. So we started going around to the house parties.
Black Spades.
Black Spades, yeah. So we started going around to the house parties, and we wanted to just dance, and they would go, oh, and at the time it wasn't called B-boys. They didn't call us that.
What was the name so everybody knows back then?
We were just dancing, and we would go, yo, man, when that record comes on, I'm gonna go off. That's it.
Go off.
That's the way that, And another thing, it's really based on what neighborhood you was from. The terminology changed depending on where you were from. The terminology that became the staple terminology came from Kool Herc parties. And so once, no matter what we was calling ourselves, once we got to Kool Herc's parties, whatever they said is what we said. Yeah, get down, because that's what James Brown would say.
Exactly.
Go get down, right? So we hear about this guy, Kool Herc, and everybody's talking about it. And remember, Fat Tommy and Tony O'Gara are older than us.
Exactly.
And so finally, some of my friends, we go to the Webster Avenue PAL. And my life changed that day. When I walked in there, it was really strange because it was the first time I saw DJs that had the intensity of a live band on stage.
Very cool.
And the Herculoids, and they wasn't on the stage, they was up on this tier up in the corner, and they had the boom stand, and I'm like, yo! And he took the highs out the record, and the shit went boom, 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 boom. And they made one statement: you never heard it like this before. And that was the most absolute true statement of all time. And what we did not realize is that we was witnessing the greatest record programmers in the history of modern music. And I have to say that because most people don't understand that everything we do today musically is based on their set. And so I'm standing there and I'm hearing the highs, the lows. I'd never seen that before. Fat Tommy had 2 PV column speakers. That was the epitome of, even when we went to Smokey had the gray, Altex or EV Electro Voice speakers, and he used to have a speaker inside of another speaker playing. It was just strange. But Herc and the Herculoids and Kent and Coke and Timmy Tim, that's who was the crew at the time. They had a profound effect. As a musician, they gave me, I'm a musician, but so they felt like musicians because they had this cool about them. Like that, a lot of people didn't get into it to really understand what was happening. They were, they were the hippies that I could relate to.
Okay.
They were cool. Their dialogue was different, like everything of their language too. DJ Smoke, 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 smoke. Turn, 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 turn. Your system, system, system. Down, down, down. Or we will drown you, drown you, drown you. And everybody went, oh shit.
Wow.
And all of a sudden he threw on, hey, dig this lame challenging my game. Man, you must be out of your head, chump. Boy, I beat you so fast, you be peddling your ass trying to make back your bread. Cost you 5 yards a point to play in this joint. You can't come in on no humble. You got to show me your cash before we clash, and then me and you can rumble. First count out 30 grand and give it to your man, and likewise I do the same. We'll use the extra 5 yards to tip the guards, and then we'll commence with the game. And then he threw on the rock. But that bad. Now, mind you, Smokey's still DJing, but it looks like he's miming because you don't hear him anymore.
Yeah.
Her shit was so loud that Smokey's frantically playing, but you don't hear him. And then that was it for me. I was done. I said, that's it. I am a Herculoid disciple. I was already a B-boy, but I was completely committed to whatever was happening. It clearly told me that this is going to take some sort of shape and I want to be part of it. And I began to focus seriously on DJing and expressing myself through my turntable skills. Now, mind you, after that, Smokey still was a hero that night because after he packed up, he went to his house on 167th and Grant, which I think he was the last person living on that block because the whole block was abandoned and the cars were abandoned, and he lived on the first floor and he had his speakers outside and we sat on the abandoned cars and he played until the sun came up. You know, that was like that was real hip hop. And so that whole experience for me, I wouldn't trade that for anything. Just that whole night, that was one of my it had the biggest impression on me was that night because he was the loser and the kings and both won and impressed me. And I'll never forget the sound of the buildings going, because they were all abandoned.
Yeah.
And obviously he was squatting in the building as well. But he was determined to play his music. You know what I'm saying? And that's what got me into hip hop. The end.
So, I asked you about 2 more questions. I remember you did a couple records, right? You understand what I'm saying?
I made
you did one. I know you did one in Europe. Did y'all go overseas? Was that here? Like
I did these records
same time
for
when Phase 2 came out with the Roxy.
Yeah, I produced that record.
Okay, yeah, because that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so I was part of I became the DJ at the Roxy.
Okay.
And so I was DJing at the Grill, then I went to Danceteria, and then Blue, and I lived on 19th Street between 9th and 10th Avenue.
Okay.
And so my girlfriend, who became my wife, she used to go roller skating there. So we went there and I was like, man, if we can play here, it would be awesome. It's a huge spot with no skates. And so I told Blue about it. And then she went and she said, they're gonna let us do it, you know, and that became the Roxy. While I was in there, these guys, I started getting approached by all of these record companies. Barry Mayo approached me and said, man, you have to come on here on the radio and do what you do. And I said, man, I don't want to be on the radio. I want to play in the clubs and stuff, you know, and I appointed him to believe it or not, Red Alert and Africa Islam and Jazzy J, who became the people who were playing on the radio.
WAPI or
Right. That was Kiss.
Kiss FM.
Yeah, he was on
That's
Kiss
right.
FM.
That's right. Red Alert was on Kiss. Marley Marlin.
Yeah, they were on Kiss.
BLS.
They weren't even there. They were on WHBI, I think, at the time. Right, Mr. Magic and all of that. And so I started getting approached by these people saying, hey man, we want you to come and spin in Paris. And I'm going, in Paris? I was like, we'll pay you $3,000 to do what you do. And $3,000 to play for like 2 hours? Yes. I was gone. I said, okay, how many, like you could come and play the summer, two nights for the weekend, Friday and Saturday. So I went to Paris. I started spinning in Paris, and then when I came back, they said, we're gonna do a tour to Paris, and we're gonna give you a record deal. And it was the guy, Jean Caracos. And I said, well, I'm actually a drummer, so I'm like, now I can get my chance. So I was caught in between, because I was like, okay, I gotta stop DJing and get my drum game back on so I can record records.
Exactly.
And they said, well, I said, I'm a musician. And they said, well, okay, well, you can make records. I said, okay. But then this machine called a DMX came out and a Linn drum, and I'm like, okay, what the hell is that? That's the drums. I was like, okay, I have to readjust my whole thinking to do this because the mechanics was different. And so subsequently, those first 5 records, I became part of Material with Bill Laswell, Michael Beinhorn, and we started producing these records. We did Change the Beat, Grand Mixer Cuts It Up, the Roxy, Futura 2000, and it was, yeah.
Change the Beat had 2 versions. It had the
B-side.
It had the overseas version that wasn't in English.
It was in French.
French, exactly. Then you had the Phase 2.
Phase 2 version,
Exactly.
right. And so, and then we started producing other artists. Nona Hendrix, Transformation, that was us. And then one day we was having a meeting. They said, hey man, there's this guy's a manager, because all of these different famous people were at the Roxy. It was only celebrities at one point.
Yeah, exactly.
And so there was like this famous, this manager who manages a very famous musician is looking for new sounds for the musician. And it was like, well, who it is? And they said, Herbie Hancock. You know? And so Bill said, yeah, man, let's do some demos and we'll send it to the guy. And so we were all banging out stuff, and we sent it to him, and we got a call back saying, they really like your stuff, you know? And it reminds you, like, and I know you didn't even ask me a question, I'm just segueing into it, so if you want to cut back to that, why don't you ask that question now about how did I meet Herbie, because I'm already there, and then you can catch that. So yeah, you get that.
Well, how did you meet Herbie Hancock?
Okay, again, I was playing at the Roxy, and people were coming and offering me money to teach them how to do it, because I and go places, and I started playing at different places where I could charge a lot of money. And Russell Simmons was calling me saying, hey man, you need a manager. And I was like, well, I wasn't sure about any of that stuff, man. So finally I said, okay, I'm gonna sign with this guy, Jean Caracos, who unfortunately passed away 2 weeks ago. And so he said, man, we're gonna make some records. And this is Bill Laswell, I got with Bill Laswell. And then we started doing these demo tracks, and we sent them to California. And they came back and said, Herbie loves the stuff. And you know, I said, okay, cool. And they said, okay, we're gonna actually do this record. And they said, D, we want you to do what you... Okay, so yeah, so we sent the demos, and then we started working on the record. And it's interesting because during that week, I went back to my old neighborhood, and there was some DJs going, you know, playing at the community center where I started playing. And I went there to give them, you know, big up and rock the house and all of that. And I get stuck up in my own hood. Me and Boo Ski, right? One of my B-boy brothers, right? And I'm furious, man, like really upset. And I had to be back in the studio to work on Herbie stuff. So when I got to the studio, and I was really emotionally like drained by what happened and very upset, man. I went in the studio and I said, okay, they said, let's do a section of you right here in this section. And I said, okay, let me find a sound, let me find something to do. And I was, again, mentally, I wasn't in the right state of mind. I was very angry. And so I took my Good Times thing that I used to do at the Roxy. I used to do this thing with Good Times. And speaking of that, if it's okay with you, I'm gonna jump to another thing with that. But I was doing this thing with Good Times, and I said, I'm gonna try this other record. So I was going through all these different sound effects doing this thing. And then I said, you know what, let me use Change the Beat, one of the things we did with the vocoder and all that. And I went fresh, and everybody went, yo, that's it. And I was in another state of mind. So I said, roll the tape. And I did one take.
Okay.
That was one take.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that was one take. And I took a cab all the way from Brooklyn back to the Bronx to try to catch these dudes who stuck me up. Like, that was the only thing on my mind. But I must say that over time, I thanked them because they took the last chain that I purchased thinking that it was a symbol of status for me. And so I thanked them for that, because that chain was on my brain. And so now I'm free. And they didn't know it, and I didn't know it at the time, but it freed me.
Yeah. Killed you from a course that you ain't really
Yeah, I didn't need that.
Yeah, exactly. So before you go, I need you to just speak about briefly. There's a lot of young brothers out here that's not really in tune with why they making money in this culture. I feel like they don't owe us anything. What they're doing from the creativity of what's going on now, and the youth is liking them, but they at least do owe the respect of paying homage to why they're doing what they're doing. Well, how you feel about that?
You know, my position is this on that, you know. Each generation has a responsibility. And when you know that you're in a war, and we are, it is your responsibility to build soldiers. And we've been redirected away from soldier building, and it's been going on for several generations. And so we get to this generation where we have found a way to express ourselves through music. And as you can see, those who choose to oppress us was waiting in the wings for that to happen. And so they've extracted the cultural wealth from what we've done and made a $1 billion business. And we've only seen the 20% of the net of that, which is the Babies and Puffy. And there are billionaires now from this thing. But for us to think that the acquisition of material things and making money is the be-all, tell-all has been their way of deceiving us. All of us are going to end up in a room long enough to see them drag Jay-Z and Michael Jordan in that same room. See what I'm saying? And so what we need to do, as far as these young people, is get them to understand that in their time, it is critical for them to understand that the lineage has been broken and they must reconnect it, because their tomorrow is not guaranteed. And when you're in a war, the acquisition of material things are gonna come and go.
There you go. Couldn't be said any better by me. Yo, once again, What's the Science podcast / Showcast. Yo, DST, I want to thank you for coming through.
My man, yes,
dropping
sir.
them jewels on the people.
No doubt.
All you younger brothers out there, or anybody that's interested in knowing the history or the culture, you have no excuses anymore. I'm giving this to you for free. You understand what I'm saying? You can look online. You can go to the DJ Kayslay Show on YouTube, www.straightstepmagazine.com. Shout out to Funkmaster Flex. You can go to inflexwetrust.com and a whole lot of other websites and get put up on game. It is what it is. So we out.
Warning, warning, warning. The Drama King is in the building. The Drama King is in the